A very good evening, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David, on what is a very wintry, nasty night here. It has been dry most of the day, nor'west just lightly, but now a horrible driving sou'wester has come with driving rain. It's plummeted to 16 degrees, not that it was much higher, and the barometer is 9.9. Oh, it is nasty here. I'm glad we're sitting at home in a nice, dry, warm house and not like Maana out there, not too far, almost 33 south. But boy, they have got 5-metre seas from the southwest and about 32, gusting 46 at the moment. Anybody contemplating coming to New Zealand, you might like to look at the conditions, because these conditions are not what you want to arrive in New Zealand with. This is one of the worst situations for a boat arriving in New Zealand, this southwest gale like this. And if you're not used to those sorts of conditions, you really, really need to think very carefully about what time you leave and what your strategy is on the route. Just to give you a few ideas to think about, go to our website www.ghradio.co.nz and click on weather and look at coming to New Zealand and the sorts of things that you should look at. But certainly what they've got at the moment out there is just not very pleasant. It's not very pleasant on our roof either. The people trying to put our guttering back this afternoon did a hasty retreat when this big black cloud moved rather suddenly over us. All right, well, there's not an awful lot of news from me. Nobody, as you can imagine, is moving too much from the islands. There's a few have left Nunia to go to Australia, but apart from that, there's not too many people braving the elements at the moment. Certainly in New Zealand, even on land, there are scattered thunderstorms and hail expected for pretty much everywhere in the middle of the island, North Island, from South Waikato all the way through, gale winds in Wellington, dreadful rainstorms in the Hawke's Bay yet again. So not much going on here to talk about, but funnily enough, we were just chuckling amongst ourselves. Scientists, here's a lovely model for you. I mean, it's not just weird weather models that we scoff at sometimes, but scientists have predicted that mammals, that's including us, may have only 250 million years left to exist. Well, given that we have been around 250 million years because we evidently evolved from reptiles that long ago, I guess nobody listening to me here tonight is going to be too worried about our extinction in 250 million years. It's always good to predict these things when you know you're not going to be around to apologise. Anyway, not much. Is David going to give a little update on what you're looking at over there? Okay. Here's David.
All right. Good evening, everyone who's out there listening. And not much has changed really from yesterday. We've got the two big highs that are knocking into each other. They've created the trough that's fished its way up toward the Fiji area, and it then has developed into a subtropical cyclone, a depression that has moved south, and by 8 o'clock tonight, the center of it is going to be right around East Cape here in New Zealand. The frontal band extends pretty much north from that position and almost up the date line, basically, but it makes a big curve, well, a slight curve when it gets to about 20 south, and it basically cuts Fiji in half with cloud and rain. So along with that, we've got some fairly strong winds. We've got 20 knots up there in Fiji, and it's gusting up to 25 knots. Fiji has a strong wind warning in force, and they have had that now for a couple of days, but this is going to continue through all day tomorrow. And the winds are going to probably ease just a little bit after tomorrow. Fiji Met calls east to southeast winds about 20 to 25, and moderate to rough seas and moderate easterly swells. Getting back to the New Zealand area, as Patricia had said, this depression is the worst situation that you could have for your arrival in New Zealand, as she said. This is a thing we all fear and we all try to plan for. It's vitally important that you look very, very carefully at your destination weather, meaning the weather at New Zealand on your arrival. This was, in a way, fairly easy to predict this was going to happen when we have a big high to the east, a big high to the west. They slam into one another, they create a trough, and from that trough it's very easy to turn it into a depression, and that's exactly what happened. These gusts are up to 46, 48 knots, and as Patricia said, seas are 5 meters out of the southwest. 5 meters, that's like 16 feet. This is nasty, nasty conditions. So anyway, for those of you that are planning on getting to New Zealand in the near future, you really have to watch carefully the weather. I'm looking at, as an example, Sunday, this coming Sunday. This big depression, and it's turned from a little tiny thing to a medium-sized thing to a really enormous depression, and it's heading east, and it's probably going to be by, I would say, Sunday. It's going to be, what is it? Probably about 40, the center of it, about 40 south, and maybe about 170, maybe 173, roughly about that, west. So that means the winds over New Zealand are going to be southwesterlies, but by the time they get up to Fiji, they're going to be south-southeast. And behind all this is a high. So on Sunday, this high is going to be between New Zealand and Australia, but actually not really between them, because being El Nino, or just about El Nino, all of the high centers are going to be further up, further north in latitude than La Nina years. And so this one is just exactly like that. It is going to be roughly 30, 32 south in terms of latitude, and again, sort of between the longitude of New Zealand and the east side of Australia. And that high is going to do some strange things. It's going to move east. It's going to be pretty much due north of New Zealand on late Monday, almost into Tuesday. Building going to be about a 1027, and on Tuesday it starts to stretch, really stretch. So it's going to look almost like a hot dog. So you've got hardly any air at all at about 30 south, but north of that you've got very nice easterlies, and below that you've got westerlies. However, up in the islands you do have wind, and you're going to have wind for most of the week. Looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, you're going to have 20-25 knots of wind very easily out of the southeast. So that high may be tempting, but departure from Fiji or Vanuatu or New Caledonia, you're going to have some pretty rough seas out there. And looking all the way out to Thursday, the high actually, what we call retrograde. It actually, well, let's just say that it either goes to the west or it dissipates and a new one pops up to the west. But the new one on Thursday of next week looks like it's going to be just to the northwest of Cape Reinga. and it's going to be about 10:27. But the winds up in the islands are still going to be very strong. However, the winds around the New Zealand area are going to be quite lovely. So it's very tempting to maybe perhaps make a dash for New Zealand. But behind this high is going to be another trough. And just after that is going to be another high. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing high, low, just pretty much what I said, I think, yesterday. So you really have to do some planning, and we all know the models are really not to be trusted after about 5 days, but still, they give you an idea of what may happen. They're ideas. Models are just ideas anyway. So anyhow, we're here to make comments on proposed passages, so feel free to take advantage of that. And with that, I'll pass it back to the chief.
And one of the things you can be doing in between time is checking out the radio. If you are going to be checking in en route, please don't wait till the last minute to check out the radio. And make sure you know what time we are on the radio, which is still on UTC time, 0515. And we'll make sure that we've got all your details and know what you're doing. There are so many different sorts of boats out there now that we can't sort of make blanket statements as to when is a passage window, because some of you are very sleek and fast and have the most amazingly tall masts I've seen. And some of you are like Chameleon, just sort of comfortable and work on the 6.5 knot theory. So lots of different sorts of boats out there.
Yeah, that's right. And one of those fast boats has managed to get itself right in that area of very high winds approaching New Zealand. They're at about 32, 175 roughly, and they're going to be looking at 48 knots of gust with 5-meter seas, and that's happening as we speak. So what their plan is, we don't know, but hopefully they'll be safe. But this is not good. So hopefully, very hopefully, that they will make it through this all right. Anyway, back to the boss.
Okay, is there anybody out there at this stage? Oh, and the other thing I should say before I toss it over to anybody who wants to make contact, tomorrow, for those New Zealanders out there, you can find your way to a polling station and cast your vote for this coming election. So they're all over the place. One year we voted in Port Vila, didn't we? So they're in all of the major centres, so please do avail yourself of that. Every vote counts, and you can't complain about what you get if you haven't made your selection. The other thing I keep meaning to comment on, particularly if you are not familiar with the Island Cruising Association, if you are new to our shores, do look them up, because they provide a lot of interesting stuff for cruises to New Zealand. And it is too numerous to talk about at the moment, but if you're sitting there in strong winds with nothing to do, I would thoroughly recommend that you go onto the Island Cruising Association website and just see what there is there, and it sort of would help fill out your appreciation of what there is available as yachties in New Zealand, and help you along the way there. Okay, is there anybody out there wanting to make contact? Please call. Well, that's nice and quiet, isn't it? So we'll be back again tomorrow. It's a very quiet month as everyone settles down and tries to wait for decent weather. We do hope that the weather will settle down. I suppose I should say that this is the equinox, and we haven't had equinoctial type weather for a couple of years with La Nina, but boy, are we getting it at the moment.
Equinoctial gales, famously.
Gales, yes, it's the famous gales. All right, cheers everybody, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Stay safe.